Hey, this is Demonte 66, and I want to talk to everybody about perception of self and how that could be positive and negative. And since a child, I've struggled with that, especially me evolving into the way I look now. As a boy, there's negative ways that your parents and your environment can mold the way you look at yourself in the mirror and how you feel inside of yourself, because as a child you're at a vulnerable standpoint of looking up to people that you see as guidance, and they could be misguiding you. And there's ways that I had to bite the hand that fed me that was not feeding me the right things, of not implementing of who I am today. And things like bullying, um me being casted out and outcasted, I feel like there was positive ways that made me have thick skin of where I am today, of being in a public eye, and also just being outside, and that I'm now using my voice to free people from that false perception of yourself that's negative, and how that can like shape like the way you do everyday things, like the people you hang with, the things you put inside your mind and inside your system. And you know going back to my childhood, those times, like around the early 2000s, when I realized that I wanted to cross dress as a guy and just express myself in other ways that are creative, there's my fair share of people that liked it, you know what I mean? And that was outside of family or inside of family. And then, but it just came to the point, how did I feel inside? How did I feel inside expressing myself the way I wanted to express myself, perceiving myself in ways that, yes, there's the negative, and what is the positive? Looking in that mirror, the self awareness of that I'm putting this on without even thinking about it. I'm saying these things without even thinking about it. It's in my nature, it's in my blood to be my own cut board of myself. My my own perception of self got me where I am today, which is stepping into that light, stepping into healing and self acceptance. And I say that to share to people that, you know, look in that mirror, think about your childhood, how that, look at things that were false, like it all just comes down to how you perceive yourself. There's ways you can implement that, that false and truth that people think of you outside looking in. But at the end of the day, like people say, and like I say to myself, like I'm misunderstood in certain ways, you know, um, of people's perception of me. And there's ways that I'm misunderstood within that I get wrong, but I correct it. You know what I mean? And you could correct other people where the shoe may fit, whether if it's just walking away from a certain friend group, having that time alone, or, changing what the friend group looks like. You know, like, is this friend group or family dynamic, is this feeding into me being my true self, me being thinking positive about me? Um, I've had my fair share of like the party life and wanting to escape from certain things because I was told to fear these certain things about me, and that it will also implement fear in my walking life of just me wearing a wig as a guy, and also just being alternative black guy, and this could help people in certain aspects, that of people that look like me or don't look like me. I make these videos that are to come from this introduction of empowering yourself, empowering myself. There's things I could learn along the way from other people that care to join my following, or just this movement as a whole. Um, I've had my fair share of implementing a lot of hate in my life, self hate, hate for others that have abused me, you know. And at the end of the day, I had to shift that into these. There's that truth in that lie. You know what I mean? Like certain things that are said, like, oh, like you really think you're all cool and hot shit. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, you really think that this is going to work in your life. Look at yourself, sit down with yourself like I did, and really just say, what does me want out of this? Is this for me? And also harnessing that fear. You know what I mean? Like, fear is a big part of our lives. I get it. And that's why certain people said the things they said. You know what I mean? But like, just harness that fear. You know what I mean? Harness that ego, the false ego of yourself. Like, either like you really think that you're like this perfect person and you can't get anything wrong. You know what I mean? Like, implement and sit with yourself of how that could be hindering you from your growth. Personally, I feel like we're here to grow as individuals. Um, and then ways that I am growing in certain ways is I'm going to tell you guys that, you know, I'm not looking to be a therapist. I'm just sharing my story and implementing like just love, you know what I mean, into people's lives. And this is like my first video. And there's a lot of things that tried to stop me, including myself, from just how this could help me. And that there was a lot of things in my life that weren't helping me that I had normalized. And just be careful of normalizing those things, but also being familiar of the fact that like the familiar of that negative, I could be familiar with that positive. And um, seek out that professional help. I'm doing it myself, in my own life, in my private life, um, because you know I'm not a therapist. You know what I mean? And I'm just a person that's in like your circle. You know what I mean? Rooting you on that you could do things as a guy like me, or you don't have to. Just living your truth, and that's just what it's all about, in my opinion. And once you free yourself from certain things, like things start to flow in your life. You don't have to force it, a relationship or a family member to get it. As long as you get yourself, that self perception of yourself, implementing that positive overall, the self love, that abundance will flow. You'll start to feel at peace. You wouldn't have to indulge in alcohol and drugs or whatever. And you know that's what worked for me. You know, being sober, having a clear mind, and just reaching out to others to empower myself and liberate myself, and also reaching out within that inner child and inner teen and inner adult. And that makes myself feel whole. I don't have to fill it with the falseness of this life of others and trying to fit in. All that will come later. Just be patient with yourself. Have grace for yourself. Demonte 66 checking out. Love you guys. Bye.